time for us to take a look at the papers this morning, bring you up to speed with the biggest stories making the headlines, and there's quite a lot to get to. So let's start things off the usual way with a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper for today, Monday, April 7, 2025. All right, let's start from the top. Some disturbing news from Kebbi as Lakurawa kills 13 vigilantes in the state. More on this story on page 38. And, to be honest, the insecurity question continues to grow day in, day out. This is the latest from Kebbi. U.S. tariff imposition may disrupt Nigeria's non-oil exports, according to the federal government. I don't think may is supposed to be the word there. It will definitely disrupt. I mean, 14% is quite telling, isn't it? World Health Day. Nigeria's high maternal child mortality rate spark calls for action. And this is one that hits close to home for a lot of Nigerians right now. Page 31 has all the details for you in commemoration of the World Health Day. This year's theme and what the data says about Nigeria's gaps and challenges. Take It Back movement insists on protest. And we can report that we've already seen some live images from Lagos where those protests are already ongoing. Demands reversal of Rivers emergency rule, alleges right abuse, misuse of Cybercrime Act, and police urge caution. This and more on page 3 and 4. In the images there, you can see some of the destroyed buildings in Bokos and the displaced persons on the right. We understand that 1,000+ people have been displaced in those communities that were attacked over the past couple of days in communities of Bokos local government area of Plateau State. Still on the Plateau killings, survivors recount ordeal. The RIO Consultative Forum urges end to attacks. Anambra governorship, Soludo, Ukachukwu, Mogalu get APGA, APC, Labour Party tickets. Student dies in auto crash after dropping parents at airport. Such a very sad and tragic event. On this one on page 20. 2 soldiers, Boko Haram terrorists killed in Borno village attacks. And we're seeing something that looks like a resurgence. I'm not sure how to qualify it, but the activities have been upped a little bit recently. Let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune for today, Monday, April 7. These are the major stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune for today. Nigerian airlines grapple with financial woes. Trump tariffs, Nigeria in consultation with the US and the World Trade Organization. This is according to the federal government. And of course, you can see some of the riders there speaking to, the different implications to the Nigerian economy, especially when it comes to exports. Plateau killings, enough is enough, Ribadu warns. Nigeria going through tough, difficult times, according to the NSA. Governor Mufwang vows to prosecute perpetrators. The RDO Consultative Forum urges government to restore peace. LND demands radical security action. I think it's the League of Northern Democrats or something. More on page 3 and 4. Federal government orders varsities, others to publish budgetary allocation as well as expenditure. We're just talking about accountability. Transparency is also another thing that is quite lacking. NCDC records 151 deaths, 1,826 suspected meningitis cases in 23 states. Shelf planned protests, police warn organizers. In other news, Salah incident, IGP withdraws letter inviting Emir Sanusi to force headquarters. You get a sense that, listen, some of these developments are quite needless. I'm not here to tell the police how to do their job, but because of everything that's happening in Kano, this is a welcome development. Tinubu, Obasanjo, Makinde, others pay tribute as Olunloyo dies at the age of 89. Let's take a look at the next newspaper for you today, which is the Guardian newspaper. All right, these are the latest stories on the Guardian newspaper for today, Monday, April 7, 2025. US tariffs opportunity to grow Nigeria's non-oil exports, says the Minister of Trade. And yeah, I think that's our way of looking at the silver lining. We should have been looking at all of these opportunities before now. But what are we doing? Are we going eye for an eye? Or what is Nigeria's position on this one? We've already seen the response of China, for instance, 34% tariff on US imports. So let's see how this one goes for Nigeria. The Osun State governor has warned monarchs against controversial utterances and fighting publicly. Yes, we've seen the developments in Ilobu, for instance, over the past couple of weeks, where the skirmishes has cost people their properties, some lives were lost, and we can all prevent that by not overheating the polity. Police withdraw Sanusi's Abuja invitation to quiz monarch in Kano. Yes, so he doesn't have to come to Abuja, but he'll be quizzed in Kano. That is my understanding from that headline. And in other news, one fiscal year, 2 budgets spike governance concerns in Rivers. More on this one on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. And elsewhere, emergency responders, 16 others, I beg your pardon, die in Ogun multiple auto crash. And Tinubu, southern governors, Afenifere, others mourn Olunloyo. That is quite the life lived so far. And in other news, I chose not to challenge flawed system, says Akbata, as PDP appeals Edo ruling. Yeah, why did you not do it? I mean, you were the former NBA president. Maybe perhaps he has seen the fact that there is no point in doing that, because he came third, right? So, and the numbers may just not be there too. Plateau killings, enough is enough, says federal government amid calls for emergency rule. Who is calling for emergency rule in Plateau? Who is actually calling for that? Okay, anyway, these are some of the developments on the front page of the Guardian newspaper for today. Let me just take the last one. Okay, let's just move over to the Punch, shall we? Already you've seen some familiar stories there with the police invitation and so on and so forth, the killings in Jos, or the killings in Plateau State. But the big one that stands out on the Punch newspaper is 20 governors under fire for delaying 70,000 naira minimum wage. Local government workers, teachers in Zamfara, Cross River, Abia, others yet to get minimum wage. You can see the pictures there of the National Security Advisor during his visit to Jos, the Plateau State capital, in an assessment of the killings in Bokos. Right, let's get some insight into some of these stories, the backstory behind the headlines. Joining me right now is the Director of Programs for the Daily Trust Foundation, senior veteran. I don't know if senior veteran is just veteran, veteran journalist, right? Dr. Theophilus Abba is joining us this morning. Doctor, it's good to see you as always. Thank you so much for coming in this morning. Where do we start from? Let's start with the killings in Bokos, shall we? One too many. We've been here before several times over the past couple of years, over the past couple of months indeed. We heard the NSA say that thousands have been prosecuted for crimes like these in the past, and the bleeding will stop because the government is up and doing. Some arrests have been made, but do you think enough is being done to say that this will not happen again?
Well, if this has happened again and again, it means I have not got the answer. I think that is how I'll put it. You know, I remember there was a governor who said, okay, this is about farmers and herders. If your cattle is stolen, is rusted, is killed, the government will pay. You know, it was an approach which I don't think it worked to some extent. I don't know how it collapsed. You know, I don't know the strategy that the current governor, has adopted. You know, but it shows that, number one, the strategy that we're using all this while have not worked. And one of the reasons has been because we have not seen the kind of prosecution that I think the NSA is talking about. Because if somebody is prosecuted for committing such crime, it has to be very clear so that it will be an example to others. If prosecutions are done in secret and people don't see punishment being meted out to those who carry out this kind of killings, they will do it again. They will do it again, especially because if it is seen as like fighting for your own ethnic community, fighting for your own convictions, you know, you feel even if I die, you know, I'm fighting for a conviction. People need to be re-educated, sincerely. There's a need for a lot of re-education because these killings are quite senseless. You know, you kill 50, kill 100, kill 120, but then as you kept killing, the thing that you actually wanted has not, come to you. And this killing has been going on for more than 20 years now, usually the other to Plateau State. Other different guys, they have been going on for what? Up to now, we have not seen an end to it. So there has to be a paradigm shift. There has to be a new approach. You know, the old approach has not been working. There has to be a new approach to this crisis in Plateau State.
And the governor has said that, listen, this is not your traditional or classic case of farmer-herder clashes. He said there are chaos merchants that are fueling these attacks and killings.
Yes.
What does that say about, you know, the conspiracy that there are some elements who are benefiting from these, you know, consistent attacks that unsettles the Tin City?
Actually, the governor has said there are people behind all these killings. But then the challenge before the security operatives agencies is getting these guys who are actually the masterminds. You know, for instance, if you got 20 people in action, let me say, while they were carrying out this criminal act, you capture them, you put them in detention, even if you kill them, you know, that will not end the crisis unless you get those who are behind, you know, those who are stoking this fire of violence. If you don't look for them, deliberately look for them and capture them, sincerely, you will keep on having these killings. You know, and when the governor talks in this manner, it means that he has a measure of an insight into what is happening, into those who are behind it. The courage that we need is that of capturing these people and actually bringing them to book, in spite of their political affiliations. You know, because most times those political officers say, well, I know Mr. A was behind that crisis, but you know, we cannot touch him because if we touch him, the election is coming 2027, they will not support us. You know, he has large followers, and because of that, we cannot touch him. You know, things like that, have continue to fuel this kind of crisis. Because if anybody feels it's untouchable, it means he can commit that crime again and again, you know. And so we need to look at the untouchables and really touch them when we are looking at the solution to this problem. Look for those who are behind this crisis. The guys who carried these weapons, 700,000 naira AK-47, most of them on their own cannot afford that money. So who bought that AK-47 for them? Now, some of these people go on this project, we call it a project now, because they are paid. Okay, go and kill. If you kill, you come back, we're going to give you 200,000, 300,000. Now, who are those giving out this money? And I think from investigations that have been carried out by security operatives, they have an insight. They know those who are actually behind these things. But then we have considered some people untouchables in this country. And that is why this will continue again and again.
Yeah. The NSA has, given some reassuring words, but of course, government has been very good at giving reassurances only for some
And we keep talking about it. You see, we need to provide a framework for securing our rural areas. Nigeria is not the only communities, I mean, the only country that has rural communities. But in many rural communities, if you attempt to attack, you know, before in 10 minutes, 30 minutes, security operatives will come.
I think,
you know,
yeah,
but
people were in Jos, for instance, are saying they need more deployment, and you can also relate that to agrarian communities in Benue, for instance, who have been attacked recently. We've seen the protests in Otupo. We've seen some of the attacks there. Do you think it's just more security personnel, more boots on the ground, that can avert some of these attacks?
Well, I think I saw a video online recently, and I hope is the right person. Somebody top in the security agency was saying that, look, Nigerians have to organize themselves, ordinary Nigerians to organize themselves and get the kind of weapons that can enable them to resist some of these attacks. I gave series of examples of communities that organized themselves and resisted bandits, resisted these killers or thugs and all this and all that. Now, we are told that the security operators are supposed to protect us. But a new narrative, a new solution is coming up, that people should organize themselves, even in rural areas, to attack, you know, the attackers, to resist these attacks. That when you resist them and you kill some of them, they will disappear. But then, you see, I keep arguing that it's good to make this point to communities. But we have seen other countries where the authorities, the political authorities, actually put in place a measure to protect rural communities. You know, if you go to even Middle East countries, if you go to some Asian countries, you don't just attack a community and get away with it. As you are carrying out the attack, I mean, there's a procedure, there's a network that has been put in place to make sure that there's reinforcement and there are people who have superior forces who will come to challenge you. But in this country, the rural area you are talking about, we don't have people they are not trained. You know, they are not trained in warfare. You know, I lived in a rural area, there was no time anybody had trained me how to fight. You understand? Or resist. So how are they going to resist when they are not trained?
Right.
So there has to be a formal way of saying, okay, this is a perennial problem. Let's do something. Let's train. Okay, if you want the rural communities to defend themselves, let's get to the rural communities that are prone. Let's even train them and see if we can even give them the kind of weapons that they will need to defend themselves, if it gets to that point.
Right.
Because we keep beating about the bush, you keep theorizing, but not getting the answer.
Okay. Let's segue into the next headline on the Daily Trust newspaper on page 38, because it says that the Lakura terrorist group on Sunday this weekend killed 13 members of vigilante group as they attacked Morai community in Augi local government area of Kebbi State. The 13 vigilantes were reportedly killed when they tried to resist the Lakura as they attacked and rustled cattle from the community. So even in resistance, we still lose.
Yes, even in resistance, we still lose. And that's to tell you that even the vigilantes, I don't think they have been trained with that kind of capacity to challenge the Lakurawa. Now, it's very clear that these guys have superior weapons. It's very clear that they come in their numbers. You know, we heard that they come from some part of Mali or some other part of Africa. They invade, they come in their large numbers. You know, because the strength of these terrorists and bandits is not just the weapons that they have, it's in their numbers. Now, if the vigilantes are giving Dane guns, they are giving some cutlasses to challenge Lakura, they cannot do it. And you see, there was a time the military was saying, oh, they had victorious over the Lakurawa. Now they killed some persons. I said, no, but that is not the answer. Like we keep saying, we have to get to the mastermind. These guys who are the brain behind the Lakurawa, even if you to take a diplomatic approach, you know, even if you say, okay, go to Mali, they are ahead there, go and talk to the authorities in Mali to say, this guy is creating problem in our country, we cannot accept it. You understand? Even if you're going to Mali to talk to the authorities in Mali and then challenge the authorities there to arrest these guys, to call him to order. You know? So even if it means talking to all the countries between Nigeria and Mali, you know, I say, okay, we need to come into partnership to challenge these guys. If we don't do that, if we allow them to recruit from any part of Nigeria, of Africa, you know, come to Nigeria in their numbers, invade communities, and rustle cattle, and we now begin to say, okay, oh, let's pursue them. You don't even pursue them immediately. You allow them to go, then you now tell us you are doing your best. You know, so we need to be really proactive. We need to engage in, you know, we have to think through whatever we are doing. It's not just going to shoot one of the 1-2 Lakura guys that now come to the newspapers and say we have killed some of them.
Okay, we have to go, but I need to get your quick reaction on this one. We understand that the likes of Reno Mokri, Shehu Sani, Femi Fani Kaide are likely being screened for an ambassadorial role for Nigeria. The president has, relieved the diplomatic corps, the ambassadors, the last set that Buhari put in place for the past 1 year plus, getting to 2 years now. What do you make of some of the people on that list who are rumored to be screened, or reported, not rumored, reportedly being screened for an ambassadorial role?
Well, I have a reservation concerning some of those characters.
Right.
But perhaps they are lucky.
Yeah.
Perhaps they are lucky to be made ambassadors because we don't have a choice. You see, I have my reservations. I don't want to talk, to be specific.
Right.
But some of them are not ambassadorial characters, sincerely.
Okay.
Some of those characters don't have ambassadorial qualities, because it's not enough for you to become an ambassador simply because you can abuse the president's opponents, simply because you can threaten some people, simply because you can use your social media platform to even argue awkwardly.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that for even the countries that you want to send them to, they will screen them and say, look, this is not the character we want as a representative of Nigeria.
Yeah.
I remember there was a Nigerian, a senior person who was slated to be an ambassador to one country. The country rejected him, said, look, we don't want this character. Yeah. Because before you are accepted as an ambassador, they will check your profile. And one of the things they will check are your social media handles. Yeah. What is this guy like? Yeah. When you come up with odd arguments, you are the insultive type, they will say, gentlemen, we don't want you here.
Okay. And on that note, we wait to see what happens with the Nigerian Senate and everything else within the process, but this is what we can report so far. Dr. Ava, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, sir.
On the program. Thank you so much.